Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox for like the 30th time today. I reviewed a video Tucker Carlson did against Richard Goldstein. He was essentially a warmongering lawyer that worked for Hillary Clinton that Tucker Carlson fundamentally eviscerated, asking why should we go into Syria? Why should we do this? Why? Asking questions in a way that people should ask when other people are talking about going, invading, and blowing other stuff up and killing other human beings. Tucker Carlson is having a conversation with Glenn Greenwald on this one, on the exact same show. I haven't seen this, and I know this is always risky when I haven't seen a video or showing a video. Oftentimes I've watched a video with my audience and I tell my audience I'm watching this with you. I don't think this is a dangerous thing to watch personally. I think Glenn Greenwald is a fucking lion, and I think him and Tucker Carlson are going to have an awesome conversation, a rational, mind-blowingly, just using the word rational is something that's not necessarily used in the news today, but a rational, sober conversation about analyzing the policies of how these people are reacting, one, and what's actually, realistically, based on evidence, based on information, based on what we actually expect or is likely to take place if we do anything in the way that these people are talking about, or at the very least, the way Libya turned out. You don't see it on TV often, so I give Tucker Carlson a gold star for this. So let's take a listen to Tucker Carlson in a discussion with Glenn Greenwald. And of course, like always, I interject. Pushing off the interjection, I put the video at the bottom so you guys can see it for yourself if you want me to shut the fuck up. But let's hear Tucker Carlson have a conversation with Glenn Greenwald. I always said Glenn Greenwald is a lion. Here we go.
While the geniuses here in Washington are unanimous on this question, we must attack Syria, and anyone who asks questions about why we must attack Syria is obviously, by definition, working for Vladimir Putin. How has this happened? How is almost everybody in power lined up behind yet another military intervention? Is the public crying out for one? Glenn Greenwald has watched this fairly carefully, and he joins us next with an answer. Well, virtually all of official Washington, Republicans and Democrats, have united behind the idea that the United States has a moral obligation to go deeper into war in Syria. We already have thousands of troops in Syria, though you wouldn't know it from watching the other.
Stop right there. The moral obligation for war. Think about that. The moral obligation to kill and slaughter for unrealizable means. Meaning usually all the things that they say are going to take place after the war usually rarely take place. And we've created one fire after the next. Using morality in this at all gets sketchy at best. But he's right. The moral imperative for war. They're chemical weapons. We need to do something about it. We have a moral imperative to do something about it. Dead babies, they're dead babies. Let's let him finish. I'm not going to interrupt them. I'm interrupting him. So saying I'm not going to interrupt him is besides the point. Let's let him finish.
Robert Mueller-based channels. They're all Stormy Daniels all the time. But it's true we do, and one American soldier's already died in Syria. We've killed hundreds of Russian citizens so far there and lobbed in a series of cruise missiles. But that's not enough, the pundits say. We need a real war, something big and deadly.
Listen to what he just said. That's profound. We've killed hundreds of Russians without cruise missiles. We, United States, have killed hundreds of Russians. What would people say if 10 Americans was killed in a Russian response to terrorists that took place? Say the United States, working with the terrorists, attacks a particular base, attacks something. Syria responds, Russia responds, associated with their ally Syria, and it kills 50 Americans, 50 servicemen. What would the response be from the Hillbots? What would the response be from the neocons? What would the response be from Fox News, CNN, MSNBC? What would the responses be? What would they all scream? What would they all scream? You already know. Blood in the streets. They will be screaming for battle. They will be screaming for war. These armchair hawks will be screaming for somebody else's kid to go murder somebody else's kid. You know I'm right. And yet we've killed hundreds of Russians. Let's keep going.
primarily to avenge the Syrian president Assad's poison gas attack on his own citizens over the weekend. Here's some of the growing consensus on that.
Assad and his inner circle should be considered war criminals, legitimate military targets. If you have the opportunity to take him out, you should.
It's very clear to me that this president, after using such rhetoric on Sunday, has to take stronger military action than we did last year.
Just to be clear, if this was one of the people who were in Iran, one of the senators in Iran, and the senator of Iran said, we need to shoot Obama in the face. We need to take him out. If he's a military target and he's anywhere in the area, we need to take his ass out. That's what we need to do. All of these hawks will be on TV screaming, see us, they're talking about taking him out, Obama. They're talking about taking out Obama. The Trump, they care less. They'll bitch about it, but they would care less. This is a senator of the United States saying we should shoot another leader in the face. He didn't say shoot him in the face, but murder another leader. I use shooting in the face as a euphemism. It's a gross euphemism, but I use a euphemism because I kind of want to make the point that we're talking about murder, not euphemisms of degrade military capacity. No, shooting in the face gets the point across. We're talking about canoeing, the thing of splitting somebody's head. Let's let him keep going. I find that to be profound. I don't want that to be passed. I want to put a pin in it. We've killed Russians with our actions. Let's keep going.
Here. We have a leader who is now a war criminal supported by the Iranians and the Russians. That demands a strong and...
Israel is not supported by Iran and the Russians. Israel is supported by... You're talking about the other people. You're talking about the other stuff. You're not talking about the stuff that the war crimes that just took place. You're talking about the other war crimes. My bad. My mistake. My mistake. My mistake. What happened?
Response. If the West won't stand up when a leader uses gas multiple times against his own people, we live in a very dangerous world.
So that's the consensus. Last night we asked the obvious questions about it. Before we go to war, are we sure all of this is real? Do we really know that Assad was behind the gas attack? It's not a defense of Assad, but it's an obvious question. How could we know that conclusively so soon after the attack happened? We didn't have any Americans on the ground. And why would Assad do that, given the certainty it would hurt his own interests? And while we're on the subject, by the way, why is a war in Syria a good idea for the United States in the first place? How would it make us safer, happier, more prosperous? Those seem like reasonable questions to us. In fact, the exact questions you'd want your policymakers to ask. But no, they're not asking them, and they're offended to hear them. The first person we asked those questions to, Republican Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi, implied that we were somehow allied with Vladimir Putin just for asking. Other than that, Wicker had no answers at all. It was embarrassing, yet he didn't seem embarrassed at all. Others just denounced us right off the top. Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post tweeted this, quote, "He is insane," meaning me. "Fox is not a news organization. That is all." Noah Rothman of Commentary called this show, quote, "nothing less than undiluted Russian propaganda." Seth Mandel of the New York Post summarized the criticism perfectly when he tweeted this, very simply, "Shut the F up."
That's the Washington Post. Democracy dies in the darkness. That's that paper telling Tucker Carlson to shut the fuck up. Shut up. You're saying something we don't like. Shut up. You're asking questions. You're asking questions that news people are supposed to ask, and by virtue of you asking them, you're making us look like assholes. Shut up. That's amazing. I'm gonna have to look up that conversation you had with Wicker. That's gonna that's gonna be one of my videos. Let's keep going. But Tucker Carlson is right. They don't like these questions. They don't like these questions for a reason, because they can't answer those questions. Or better yet, they can answer the questions, but they don't like the answer to those questions because it gets in the way of the direction that they're trying to go, and they're trying to lead the American populace. That's amazing. Shut the fuck up. Wow.
These are journalists, by the way. No explanation. Of course, shutting the F up is the whole point of tweets like that. They want you to be quiet. They want you to do what you're told. No more questions. Shut up and obey. There's no chance of that, though. Sorry. Glenn Greenwald has been following all of this. He's an founding editor at The Intercept, and he joins us tonight. So, Glenn, leaving aside the real question of how you should respond to Syria and is it a threat to the world order and to us and to its neighbors, I think those are all fair questions. But why the universal attempt in the media here in this country, left and right, to shut down a meaningful conversation about it?
The only time I think that the media praised Donald Trump was almost 1 year ago today when he bombed an airfield in Syria in response to what had been alleged at the time was a chemical attack by the Assad regime. People who hate Donald Trump and go on air every day took a break for 24 hours to proclaim him presidential, because that's what U.S. presidents in their eyes do, is they just drop bombs on other countries with no declaration of war, no reason why the U.S. interest or the U.S. borders are at stake when it happens. So I think that's just the ethos in Washington, that not only is it just an inherently good and presidential thing to do to drop bombs on other countries, that's why polls around the world show that the greatest threat to world peace in the eyes of the public around the world is the United States. But also, you know, Adam Smith wrote 300 years ago that the reason people who live in capitals and the elites in countries love to watch their countries bomb other countries is because it gives them a sense of excitement and purpose and kind of this pulsating stimulation. And I think that's a really big part of it. It doesn't matter whether it will accomplish anything. It just makes us feel strong and powerful and purposeful to do, and so just bombs away.
I think that's right. I mean, I think human nature explains a lot of this. I agree completely. But
I don't agree with any of that. I don't agree with any of that. I don't know what the fuck Glenn Greenwald is talking about or that. I love Glenn Greenwald to death. I have no idea what he's talking about. Perhaps I am overly cynical when I think about this stuff. But no, it's interest. It's not they just love to go to war, rah, rah. No, they have certain political interests. They have certain political points of view. The reason why Obama, I don't think, look, there's oil in them their hills, if you want to say that. So there are fiscal interests, and there's interest in a sense of for example, on the cables, one of the things that we know is immediately after Gaddafi was toppled, you had oil interests in that region of the world, meaning British and French interests getting itself into that region of the world for this thing of oil. I didn't necessarily know he was going to say this. I didn't know where they were going to go in these areas. Otherwise, I would have put the clip up. I guess I'm making a point that it goes beyond just rah rah. We like to bomb the shit out of places. There is this thing of U.S. interest, like gross U.S. interest, not, you know, we like democracies around the world more so as we want people on our side in these various countries, and Assad is not affiliated on our side. He's not on our side. Israel murdered a bunch of people. They were essentially terrorizing Palestinians and committing war crimes in a sense. We don't care about that because Israel is on our side. We don't care that Saudi Arabia is horrible and spreads terrorism throughout the world because they're on our side. Assad is not on our side. He's fair game. He's fair game. For political reasons, the Democratic Party has used this thing of Russia to attack Donald Trump. That has been the political ethos for the past, year or so. Assad is affiliated with Russia. It is not insane to believe that the Democrats would use this as a club to hit Donald Trump with this idea of, if he's invested more in Syria, A, he lies to his base because he's done so, and B, it's hitting at Vladimir Putin, who hit at us. You must take the political calculation into this and the gross behavior that these people take on. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit in regards to the way that they can attack him on this front. But I don't necessarily think it's purely this rah-rah thing of the reason why they would want to get more invested in Syria. I don't. Republicans may not necessarily care one iota. They just look at it as the weight of this is in this particular direction, so I'll go in the direction that the weight of this is in. You have people like Lindsey Graham who likes to bomb every fucking thing, and John McCain likes to bomb every fucking thing. So for them, it's a canned response. Assad could have cut wind in the elevator, and Lindsey Graham would have been out there saying the exact same thing Lindsey Graham is saying. We must bomb. We must bomb. We can't have Assad farting in an elevator with other human beings in the elevator. That's genocidal, and that's a chemical attack, and we must bomb. You know he said. John McCain, same thing. It's not rah-rah. I guess what I'm saying is not, I feel it in my breast that I need a bomb. No, there are political reasons that people take these actions. There are reasons, if you want to say the presidency, in that office, if Obama was in that office, why he wanted to take Assad out that seat. And it wasn't a rah-rah thing. I don't think Obama got up in the morning just for rah-rah reasons. I think he had reasons. I think those reasons deal with geopolitical influence. That's what I think. That's not rah-rah. Those are reasons. Those are reasons. The people who they get to fall in line with them are just falling in line with the party doctrine. Those people are just useful idiots. They take on the position of the party just because they take on the position of the party. It's cultural, it's tribal. But the people at the top who are making those decisions from the standpoint of Democrats are not taking this position just because they like this. They're taking this position because it puts a knife, or at the very least puts in Donald Trump's hide. You lied to your supporters. You just lied to your supporters. You've invaded this particular country. You said you were going to get out the country. You said you didn't care about it. You've gotten further ensconced into this country. You've lied to your supporters. Do you remember when Obama got in office? He said, I'm going to close Gitmo, and Republicans said, you know you're not. You've just lied to your supporters. This is politics. This is not rah-rah. How can I put a knife in the hide of my opponent by hook or by crook? Even if it positions us in a way that's catastrophic. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I don't want to go too far into it. I want the guys to talk. And yes, I'm picking with Glenn Greenwald because I think this is a ridiculous answer. But whatever. The man is a lion. I still stand by it. Let's keep going.
Journalists exist to push back against that. Not necessarily against war, but against a heedless rush toward anything. I mean, our job is to be skeptical and ask real questions. Why is no one doing that, and anyone who does is attacked?
So, you know, just about every name that you mentioned in the media who attacked you for raising questions about whether or not we ought to actually go and bomb another country are all essentially neocons. They're the same people who were doing this in 2002 and 2003, saying anyone who asked questions about whether we should actually go to war and remove Saddam Hussein was an admirer of the Saddam regime. They did the same in 2011 when it came time to remove Gaddafi. They said if you're against that war, it means you love Gaddafi and you want to see him slaughter people. It's just the standard tactic. And what we have now is this kind of union between neocons who have now once again kind of been embraced by both the establishment wings of the Republican and Democratic Party, and the militarists in both parties, people like Lindsey Graham and lots of Democrats who love every single war. And so this climate arises that you're just supposed to cheer when it comes time to drop bombs on other countries, not ask whether there's evidence to justify it, not ask whether it will do any good, not ask whether it will kill any civilians. And if you do ask those questions, it means you're on the side of America's enemies. It's an incredibly authoritarian tactic that gets used to suppress debate.
This is important to know. Wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever age you are when you're watching the show, it's when you're younger. When you're younger, you're at a disadvantage. You're at a magnificent disadvantage because oftentimes you don't know. You've spent 17 odd years, let's say 15, 14 odd years into an education system that educates you in a very specific way, up to a very specific point, with a very specific idea and point of view. Now, you don't know that you have a point of view. You think that your point of view is just a point of view. You're indoctrinated. So you don't necessarily have the context of historical length. Even the history that you've been given for somewhat have been curbed around the edges to give you a particular point of view in regards to your country from the standpoint of us. Look at the world from the standpoint of us. Your point of view is not the point of view, but you don't necessarily know that that's just your point of view. Other countries also have points of view. Other countries have points of view and have iconography that's similar to the way your country has indoctrinated your people. I say that to say that you're missing out on points of history. So when you see something, sometimes it's hard to realize that this is repeated over and over again. It's a trick that's repeated over and over again. By the time you get to the 30s, by the time you get to the 40s, you start looking, oh, wait a minute. I remember this back in. They did this before. So when you're younger, you don't necessarily see that. You can go back to the 60s. Hell, you can go back further. Same tactic. Shut up. Obey. And if you don't shut up and obey, dead babies. Dead babies. You're helping the guy with the dead babies. It's a tactic. It's used over and over and over and over and over again because people fall for it over and over and over and over again. Part of not knowing history and the way media operates and the way media goes with government on this stuff. When they're pushing a narrative and they're repeating the narrative over and over and over again, it becomes hypnotic over and over and over and over again. And you wake up one morning and you're like, Trump colluded with that fucking Vladimir Putin. and that goddamn Bernie Sanders somehow kicked Hillary Clinton in the knees when she was stepping out of the limo, and she just kind of fell out, and her people had to help her up, and then people started to say that she had seizures, and oh my God, all of these people are aligned against us. It's MSNBC watcher. That's what you end up being. That's how you end up acting. I'm exaggerating, I'm being hyperbolic, but you get my point. Let's keep going. I guess I'm saying age has its advantages, and being able to look over that stuff over the past years, and it's in your political learning. Meaning, I was around for the Iraq War, both of them. I remember what they said. I remember how they acted. I remember the unanimous consent that they had that this was the right thing to do. I remember that. I remember they were wrong. I remember they were all wrong. They were all liars. Not just wrong, they were all liars. Millions of people died in that war. Not just millions of people died. $7 trillion. They said it was going to take $60 billion. Do you remember that? $7 trillion we spent on this war. We've been in one country after the next for the last 16 years. They're all liars. They all should be prosecuted and put in court. Dragged before the Hague. Bush should be under a prison. Not just in a prison. Blair also. I mean, to put the age has its advantages. And one of those advantages is seeing propaganda at work, seeing media at work, and seeing them push these things that turn out to be lies or just turn out to be outright, flat out wrong. And they have no cognizance. Hey, 10 years ago we did this. They just go right into the very next phase of reference. Assuming that the people who are watching them now are somehow going to be people who are different than what was watching them then. And that those people will have no memory of events. No memory that they were wrong. No memory of what took place. It's always amazing. Age, to some degree, helps you with that. And it helps with this idea of wokeness. As if you're 18 years old, you don't have that advantage. You may have this tint towards, I want people to be able to do what they need to do. I want people to have access to the things that they need. You may have that lefty tint. But you don't necessarily have the context to see the other stuff that I guess you get to see over the course of the next 20 years beyond the 18th. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Let's keep going. But yes, he's right.
Yeah, it's poison. I agree. Glenn Greenwald, thank you, as always.
Good to be with you.
That's it. That's all you give him, Tucker? I was giving you... Oh, Tucker, you let me down. You let me down. I wanted more. I wanted more. It's like, I don't want this guy to say too much. I'm going to keep you constrained. Yeah, you don't like this? No, I don't like this. I think it sucks. Yeah, I think it sucks too. All right. Have a good one. It's always great to have you on. What? That's it? That's it? It's like, I agree with you. I agree with you. Left and right meets. But look, if nothing else, a flaming lefty, and I don't mean that because he's gay. I just mean, I use the term flaming lefty all the time. And a right winger get together and say, look, we may have our issues, but on this, we agree. And let's go out walking in the sun hand in hand. I agree. I agree. Fucking A, man. Fucking A. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Alright, let's see. I'm not going to keep this one long because we're going into midnight and I've been doing this all day. So I may do 1 or 2 in the morning, but I probably won't see you guys until later. Oh, by the way, Thursday, I am going to have Tim Canova on the show. And if I'm not mistaken, he's 1 p.m. Thursday. He'll be here on the Progressive Soapbox. That should be an amazing interview. We're going to talk about electoral reform because, you know, he has that, essentially the battle going on in Florida over them just destroying the ballots. It's amazing. Breaking federal law, breaking state law, flagrantly breaking those things. So he's going to be on the show. In addition to talking about, well, we're going to have a conversation about politics in general, but definitely what's taking place in Florida right now in this campaign to unseat Deborah Wasserman-Schultz. I want her ass out that seat. I want her ass out that seat. He's running, by the way, as an independent. He shed his Democratic wings and he's now as an independent. He didn't believe he could get a fair contest. I like this for 2 reasons. I love this for 2 reasons. I may not be able to get elected, but I can stop you from getting elected. So the fact that you guys cheated me, I am running in this contest that, hey, yes, I want to win this election. I believe I can win this election. But by the same token, if I can't, and he's never going to say this, I can hit you in the knees. I love that. That's brass knuckle politics. That's politics the way politics should be run in many respects. It's not that they cheated the guy. Now, I say that they cheated the guy. Throwing away the ballots is nefarious at best, and I have a hard time believing that they would have thrown away the ballots if anything was wrong with the ballots. It's a fucking lightning rod. Why did you throw away the ballots? I threw away the ballots. Why did you throw away the ballots? People want to be able to see the ballots. So, yes, brass knuckle politics. Solidarity of no. Like, I guess I could keep making this point that something needs to change. And if you cheat me and I go as an independent and you lose because I go as an independent, whose fault is that? You cheated me. I tried to run your process. You cheated me. Brass knuckle politics. It's uncompromising. I may win, I may lose, but at the very least, if I take you down with me, at the very least, I know if the next time you cheat another person who's running your primary, this shit will happen again. It's consequence. I love the fact that you have the capacity to create a consequence. And that's what Tim Canova is doing. I understand some Democrats may not like that. It sucks for you. You shouldn't have cheated the guy. You should have been fair to him. I will leave it at that. Jordan Sheridan is going to be here a week after that. And Gerald Horn is going to be here on 4/24, the day of the Armenian genocide, apparently. So, you all have a good night. I'll see you guys tomorrow, providing nothing happens tonight. Hopefully, nothing happens tonight. Good night, guys.